This webinar will be recorded, so you guys can go back to appraisergenie.com. All you do is click on the training tab, and you'll be able to access this webinar at a later time. Okay, I see people are still coming in. Great. So what you're going to do as an appraiser when you use Appraiser Genie is you do have to have a report ready. You'll see page 1 is pretty barren because you don't actually have to have a lot filled out. You'll see I have the address, city, state, zip code, county. I leave the rest of this blank, and then I can jump down here to this improvement area. Some of this is important. It does get sent to buildingcost.net, so generally you'll want to indicate heating, cooling, stories, detached, type of unit, year built. You don't have to put the design. And anything you could provide as far as exterior or interior, go ahead and enter that there. Same thing with driveway or garage. Okay, so then you can actually jump down to page 2, and you only need the subject column filled out. Make sure you fill out as much as you can in this portion, because later it gets transferred into Appraiser Genie. Rick Miller, it appears everyone seems to be able to hear me. I'm not sure if it's something on your computer. Just make sure you don't actually have me muted on accident. Or if you use GoToMeeting, you can phone in. So the original link I sent you, if your computer sound doesn't work, you can just dial the phone number and you should be able to hear me that way. Looks like Mark also said he was able to exit and re-enter, and he was able to hear. So you might want to try that as well. Well, of course you're not going to hear me now, but okay. All right, so you'll have this subject column filled out. Now, market conditions addendum, you don't actually have to have this addendum in here. If you don't have the addendum, we will place it in the report, but you don't need any of this filled out because we're going to do that ourselves. One thing you can already have filled out, if you have a sketch, you can go ahead and create your sketch here, because we do use the garage square footage from that. Okay, so when you use Appraiser Genie, one step you guys do have to complete on your end is you are responsible for logging into your MLS. You simply need to create a neighborhood search based on whatever the subject is. For example, this address here, I've already created the neighborhood search and I saved it to my computer, and I'll show you guys where I saved that. For example, I logged into the MLS, I created a neighborhood search based on this address. I did not narrow it by site, age, GLA, none of those parameters. I simply just created the neighborhood boundaries. I use subdivision, but you can use high school district, zip code, whatever would apply for you. All you do after you create your search is you just save the file to your computer. So what I did is I just saved it in my Dropbox folder, and it's listed down here. I'm going to open it. I'll just show you guys what it looks like. So as you see, there's column headers across the top of this export. This is the exact ordering. We actually need these fields in a specific order. So this is why generally most MLSs we actually create a template for you, and this is the template we're referring to. Some MLSs, there may not be any setup required. Either way, you will need to email or call our MLS department. You can email them at mls@appraisergenie.com, and they can help you get this set up. You can do it on your own. It can be tedious, but we offer this as a free service, so it's no charge to you either way. Okay, so I generally recommend you guys do the neighborhood search first. So I already have this downloaded. It's already saved to my computer. You can actually, the first few times you go through Appraiser Genie, you may want to use a report you've already done just to kind of compare it against what we do. That's also fine as well if you choose to go that route. All right, so what we're going to do now, I've let you guys know what you initially need to have filled out before you even start Appraiser Genie. So as you see, it's not very much, just the subject information. Now the way you access Appraiser Genie is you have a dashboard button. This is total specific. So you go up here to the right and click on dashboard. Now I've already installed Appraiser Genie, so you're going to see Appraiser Genie listed here. But if you have not installed it, all you have to do is go to this total store icon at the top and you click on launch. Okay, so when you click on launch, you're taken to the total store. All we're going to do is scroll down here. Under partner products, you'll of course want to click on Appraiser Genie. Now, anyone who's a new user, definitely take advantage of the free trial. You get 10 free reports on us, no matter if you use ACI, Appraise-It, ClickForms, doesn't matter. You can click on that. All you do is enter your a la mode login information, and it's going to allow you to download it. I've already done that. So what you'll do is enter that, then we're just going to close out of this window. Okay, so what you would do is you would actually close this, and when you come back and relaunch dashboard, you will then see Appraiser Genie on your desktop right here, or your dashboard. The only difference is it's going to say download instead of launch. So you'll just click on download, run the install setup, close dashboard one more time and relaunch it. And the next time it will say launch. So that's how you guys get up to speed as to where I am in this process. So what we'll do when we're ready and we have the report that we want to use, we just click on launch. Okay, so of course we're going to choose a currently open report. One thing I want to mention is if you have more than one report open, just make sure you pay attention to the file name and you click on the right one. If you don't have anything open, of course you just navigate to the report wherever it is. For now we're going to click this one and click OK. Tony, I see your chat. I'm sorry. I honestly don't know what could be occurring. It could be a multitude of things. As far as your internet connection, I'm not sure. But as stated, I know you can't hear me. But anyone else, if it's going in and out, you might want to try dialing in with the phone method. So I'm going to let Tony know real quick. Okay, so what we saw here, I'm going to go ahead and continue here, is Appraiser Genie launches on its own. It's going to launch with Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, whatever you have set as your default web browser. We don't use Chrome, or excuse me, we don't use Internet Explorer, and the reason why we don't use Internet Explorer is it's not the best browser in the world. You may have random issues that you only have with Internet Explorer. So we generally recommend Chrome or Firefox. It's up to you. Okay, so what you'll initially see is this. I've actually already registered, so my information is here. But if you've just installed Appraiser Genie, you're just going to click on this registration button at the bottom, and all you do is register. Create an email, password, enter your information, and then you're just going to come back here and type that in. So we're just going to click Submit. Alright, so this is not what you guys will actually see initially if this is your first time using it. So I'm going to take you to what actually populates upon initial installation. This forward and backward arrow, this is how you navigate Genie. So we're going to click this backward arrow, we're going to go all the way over. You'll see a tab at the very end that says Defaults. We're going to click on this because you're actually taken here the very first time you install it. Okay, so one thing that doesn't pop up that you guys will get is the Terms of Service Agreement. You have to scroll to the bottom of the box. You just enter your initials, and then that goes away. You will then see this information behind you. This is just your defaults. Basically, what you do here is going to apply to your future reports. Some of these you may or may not use. They honestly vary. I have some set up here, but I will go over this and explain it to you. You can take advantage of a video. This video here, Andy, he's actually a certified Texas real estate appraiser. He narrates this video and kind of gives you guys an idea on how to apply these to your reports. First thing you want to do, which is very important, Make sure you have the correct software chosen here because they all have their own process, so you definitely want to make sure you're using the right one. For example, if you click on ACI and you're using total, none of your information will transfer in here. So we'll click on ALA mode, which is total. Okay, so you'll have these blue question marks periodically throughout the defaults and actually throughout the entire program. They're kind of like a guide. If you're not sure how to use concessions or what we mean by a default, you can click on a blue question mark and it's going to populate this box here to the right. I put a 3 here, so that's going to indicate to Appraiser Genie or to our software that 3% is actually going to be the maximum percentage that's customary. Anything that's reported or that we can retrieve over this 3% here, if 4% concessions is usual and customary and reported percent is 5, we only adjust for the difference. Now this may or may not be something you want to use because you guys may not, concessions may not be reported in your area, or it may be a range like so, which we can't use a range. If that's the case and you just want to adjust for all concessions, you can just leave a 0. That just means we're not going to do anything with this, we'll just adjust for everything. I'm going to put a 3 back there. Same thing with age variance. This one's pretty straightforward. If you typically don't adjust for maybe the first 5 years age difference subject to comparables, you can put that there and Genie will automatically skip over the first 5 years and not adjust for it. Anything over that 5 years we will give you an age adjustment for. So I'm going to leave 5 there. Site size variance. This one is pretty much the same thing. If we put 30% here, then that first 30% difference subject to comparables as far as site, we won't adjust for. If you typically adjust for all site size variance, you just leave a 0 there, or you can go back and put whatever percentage is customary for you guys. So I'll leave the 30% there. Okay, these next 2 sections, these are always entered by default. That's your subjects previous years prior. Same thing with the comps. I believe that's still a requirement, so I'm going to leave that alone, but you could actually change this. You could actually import up to 5 years as far as your comp history, so keep that in mind. Minimum square foot to adjust, I have 100 here, so I'm just telling Genie don't adjust for the first 100 square foot difference. If 50 is more applicable, you can put a 50. You can ignore it and we will actually just adjust for all square foot difference. Okay, these next options here, effective age, reconciled value, calculated adjustments. There's a checkbox here because these are optional. You may or may not want us to provide the effective age adjustment or the reconciled. All you have to do is uncheck them and it just means you're going to do this on your own. Same thing with calculated adjustments. Wood deck may not be important to you in your area. Same thing for sprinkler, gate, whatever the case is, just uncheck them. If you leave them checked, we're not by any means going to put these adjustments in the grid. You'll just have this information put in your work file. So it's up to you. National Association of Home Builders. This is actually the national average cost for constructing a home. You don't have to do anything with this, but you can right-click on this link, open in a new tab, and you'll be taken to their website. And once again, this is the national average, and you can view this table here if you'd like. It's merely a reference for you. All right, so this next section, this is going to say MLS acronym. Now, as I advise you guys, your MLS does need to have a template or a custom export created. Some MLSs do have the option where you can just export as is and there's no requirement set up, but the majority it is required. So what I did is in Abilene we use interests, so I just put the MLS acronym there, and let's say you use more than one MLS, you can list up to 8 different ones here, and you just put the additional MLS's acronym. This one's a Las Vegas acronym. This is an example, so I just put GLVAR there. Okay, so verification source. I'm actually going to toggle back and forth to show you guys where this goes. For verification source, whatever you guys typically put here, we can start filling this in for you. We have a list here. For example, I've set it up to allow the Genie to put the county assessor and the doc number in that field. But there's actually a list here. If you don't want either of these, you prefer us to put like the listing office there, maybe the list price, that's a suggestion. It doesn't matter what you put there. Just set up whatever you want us to auto apply. If something is not listed that you normally put, you can just type it in here, but if it's not retrievable, if there's no way we can get that, Diana, no ma'am, these adjustments here, these are just additional adjustments that we'll give you the support for. We adjust for age, site, GLA, bedroom, fireplace, full. There's a bunch more. These are just additional. That's all this is. Did that answer your question? Okay, thank you. All right, so we usually recommend only a couple as far as verification source, and the reason why is, as you see, there's only so much that can go in these fields. So you can choose up to 3, but you may reach a character limit where maybe the last one's cut off, so just keep that in mind. Okay, rights. We actually set a default for property rights, and the reason why is MLS doesn't tell us that information, nor does leasehold. We don't get that information. So we just set it as a default here. That way when it's exported back here, it will automatically say fee simple for your comps or to say leasehold, whatever you set as a default. For verification source, you use GLVAR number 123. You can. What is that number though? The number 123456, is that the document number? Oh, MLS number? Okay, that's not a problem. We actually pull the MLS number for you. MLS should be pulled by default. It doesn't list it here, but generally what happened is it's going to say the MLS number, and usually it pulls the document number too. It used to actually just show up here. I'm not sure why it says that anymore, but I'll make sure that we actually still pull that. Okay, location, view, these are all just additional defaults that we can put in the report for you, so you basically don't have to fill any of this out. You'll see down here porch and patio. However you want us to actually enter porch and patio in the grid, you put it here. So if you don't put porch and you just put something like this, you can type that there, and then we will put that back in the report for you. I generally prefer just to spell it out. All right, so blank row 1, blank row 2, and blank row 3. This is going to refer to these 3 blanks you see down here. Now, I always put fireplace there, pull the last line and upgrades in the second line. And the reason I suggest this for you guys as well is because Genie always puts a fireplace adjustment in this first blank and always a pull adjustment in the third blank. That's just how it lines up in the grid. You'll see that later. You don't have to use this setting, but let's say you put fireplace in the second column here, your fireplace adjustment's still going to go up here above it. So just be careful with that. There's multiple things you can put here. I put fireplace in blank 1, upgrades in blank 2, and then of course pull 3, but you'll notice there's actually 3 fields for each blank. So for example, if you don't want fireplace, you don't have to choose fireplace. You can select something else from here. It's up to you. I prefer fireplace. But let's say in this first blank you want fireplace and you want outdoor kitchen. If you select that here, then in your report in this first column, it's not only going to have fireplace, but it's going to have kitchen there too. So you can do up to 3 for each blank row, but I don't really recommend going over 2 because, like I said, there's only so much you can put in these boxes. It may not actually bring over everything. It may run out of room. So I'm just going to kick that out. You can type your own if you want, but if we can't verify it or pull it, there's really not a point doing that, but it's up to you. Okay, you'll have public record verification here. What this is referring to is later on in Appraiser Genie, once we get there, when you're choosing the comparables that you want to use for your report, you can actually tell Genie for site, go ahead and always pull public records for that, or go ahead and always use MLS information or peer. Peer, basically, we don't share any proprietary information, but if you run these comparables in Appraiser Genie, and the next time you come back through, you run the same comparables for whatever reason, we'll just automatically show you what you entered last time. Same thing with any comps that are imported in Appraiser Genie. All we do is we take the last average 20 entries for an address, and then we will show the appraiser what the average value entered was. So for example, if you run an address to Appraiser Genie and you click peer, when we verify the site information for the comparables you choose for your report, we're going to show you what the last entry was for our peer database. Whether they put 1200 as site or 1400, whatever it is, you'll see that automatically. You can leave it on Ask Me. Ask Me, later on, will just manually populate these fields. So for site, if you leave it on Ask Me, at a later point, you're going to get a pop-up box, and it's going to just tell you for site, MLS reported this value, public records reported this value, and our peer reported this value. Ask Me is a good idea to put on things like basement square foot, where public and peer and MLS, they may all not provide that information, or let's say you know for a fact your MLS does not give you basement square foot. You can leave it on Ask Me, and we'll still tell you what public records gave us or what our peer database gave us. So we'll just leave that on Ask Me, and I'll give you an example later. Public records are pretty good here for sites, so we'll just click on that. Okay, so this last section here, this refers to, once again, when you're choosing your properties for your report later, you can actually decide how you want that information displayed. So for example, when you're looking through the comps, you have tons of information here regarding them. So let's say you were looking for site. Well, if you already have site all the way down here, later on you're going to have to scroll the page all the way over to the right before you may see site. Or you could just move these columns up and down and just put them in the order you want the information displayed. So this will make sense later on. As you see, I have GLA towards the front, subdivision, site, days on market. I'll refer back to this later, and it should make a lot more sense then. Okay, so all I did is I changed anything that was necessary. What I'm going to do now is there's a Save button on the right-hand side. I'm just going to click that. Now, anytime you change anything on this page, definitely make sure you save it or it's not going to apply them. Alright, so everything I did was saved. There are actually additional tabs here. During the webinar, I don't actually have a lot of time to go through these, but you'll definitely want to visit them on your own because there are many additional things you can do. For example, graphs, we can fill out up to 10 different graphs for you. You'll just need to set them here and then hit Save. Definitions is a page of definitions that we use in Appraiser Genie. This will be in your work file, and these come from the Appraisal Institute. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and briefly go over comments. They're pretty important. We can fill out quite a few comments in your report for you. For example, this is the 1004MC section. So we're actually going to input a concession comment for you automatically. So this comment right here, this is going to go on your market conditions addendum right here. Now you'll see that we already have the narrative written out. Anything in brackets here, that means we're going to pull that information for every report. So, for example, we're going to pull the subject MLS, which is interest, whatever the MLS acronym, that's just going to be put there. We'll pull the sales quantity, the concessions percentage if it's reported, and the following information here. You don't actually have to use these. If you prefer to use your own template, let's say you have standard comments that you generally place in every report, you can just copy and paste them over this and we'll use whatever you want us to. The very cool thing about our comments though, there's a quick pick menu For example, let's say you don't want to use this narrative and you're writing your own comments. I'll give you an example. So let's say I don't want to use that, and this is going to go under the subject previous, and I want to write out a comment. So I'm just going to type whatever I want. Okay, so let's say I wanted to say that. Now when I'm ready to pull information about it, all I have to do is hover over Quick Pick, hover over Subject, and let's just say I want to pull sales price. Actually, let's do sales date so it makes sense. So we're going to click on sales date, and it places it in brackets. So that means that we're going to pull the subject sales date for every report, and we're going to place it in this comment. So all you do is finish writing out your narrative however you want it to say, and then when you want us to back it up, you just hover over here, choose what you want, and click on it. Very easy. It just takes some time to set them up, or you can completely ignore this and just use whatever we have there for you. It's up to you. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and all we do now, I don't care that it changed this comment, so I'm not going to save it. But after you apply your defaults or change any, we need to go ahead and start the report now. So what we're going to do is we're going to click this forward arrow up here at the top so we can start the report. We're just going to click it all the way over, and you're going to see a tab at the front that says Input. So we're going to click on this. Input is actually how you start the report. So we'll click on this. You can go back to defaults at any point, same way. You'll just click back over with this arrow, click on defaults, change anything you need to, save it, and then just come back over here when you're done. Alright, so right here you have your subject address. Now for appraisers or for anyone who uses this after the very first time, you're actually automatically taken to this page. So after you set up your defaults, from now on when you launch Appraiser Genie, you're going to be taken here by default. I'm going to show you guys something. We're going to go back to the report. And as you see, I don't have the legal description and I don't have the parcel number. I purposely left that out. But you'll notice in Genie, we pulled the parcel number and we pulled the legal number. So if you forget to enter that or you don't have that information, just leave it blank and we'll fill it in for you. Okay, there's another video. This one's a bit outdated, so you can just refer back to this webinar if you need to, but you can watch that as well. And it's actually going to go over the entire process, similar to what I do, beginning to end. Okay, so to begin the report, we're simply going to start the page top going down. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to enter the effective date of the report from the calendar. So we're going to just go with today. Below that, we're going to select the form we are using. Now we're using a 1004 UAD single family. So we're just going to click this top one. 1 to 4 is single family. Okay, so now you see I have my MLS acronyms listed here. If you have more than one, just make sure you click on the one we're actually using for this report. We're using GLVAR, so I'm just going to leave it on that. Include cost approach in report. There's a yes or no option here. The reason being is we actually will provide cost approach for you. You'll have all the documentation and support. But if it's not required that it's filled out in the report, you can select no, or you can leave it on yes and we'll actually complete it on page 3 for you. These are also optional. The REO addendum, quantitative REO, listing addendum. If these apply or if you would like them completed, you can just check the box. Of course, you can only have one or the other for the quantitative and the REO because this one is just more extensive than this one. Okay, so this last one, I will explain that. I do get a lot of questions. The listing addendum, all it does is if you choose any actives for your report, it's going to put the actives on their own grid instead of lumping them with the solds. So if it's required that you have actives on their own page, you can just check that and we'll do it for you. Alright, so this next section I'm actually going to go over a little bit due to the fact that this can be the confusing part. But earlier, as I explained, your job when you use Appraiser Genie is to log into your MLS. You're going to create a neighborhood search based on whatever subject you're using. And basically what you do is you save that file to your computer, and we're going to narrow that out based on the parameters you see to the left. So just kind of think of it, what you would do on your MLS when you're actually defining your search. You're just going to apply that here. And the reason why is we've actually designed Genie to analyze the full neighborhood, and then you take advantage of these parameters to kick out any outliers or to produce your true comp search. So for example, I have a 30% here. What I'm telling Genie to do is take the subject site size plus or minus 30%. If these comparables don't meet the 30% parameter I put here, then you can't choose them for your report because they're not a true comparable. They would be an outlier. If I leave a 0 there, then I'm just not narrowing it by site size. That's what the 0 means. It just means we're not narrowing it by that particular parameter. I like the 30%, so I'm going to put that back. I put 15, that's going to be years. So we're going to take the subject's age, and the comps have to be within 15 years newer or 15 years older from the subject. Percentage, of course, GLA, same thing. If you want the comparable properties within 25% plus or minus of the subject, you just put a 25. One cool thing, let's say for stories, you want to only return 2 stories because the subject has 2 stories. If you put an equal there, then we'll only return comparables that have the same number of stories as the subject. I'm not going to do that. I would kick out too many, so I'm going to leave it as a 0. Now you'll want to play around with these. You probably won't utilize every single parameter because you can narrow it too much to where you simply don't have enough comparable properties to choose from. So kind of just play around with this until you get used to it. Okay, this next section, reconciliation weighting, once again, the blue question marks are there to help you. I'm going to explain it to you though. This is a use path requirement between the 3 methods. I put a 10 here because I want to assign the full weighting on sales comparison approach. By no means do you have to put a 10. You can break this down however you want. For example, let's say you want an 8 here and a 2 here. Then you can do that as long as it adds up to 10. I don't want any of the weighting on cost approach, so I don't do anything with it, and I want to go back to putting the full weight on sales comparison. Okay, this next section, highest and best use, you have your top use here, which is current, residential. Below is possible, that is also residential here. Multifamily displays by default, but if that's not applicable, you could just click the blank space and it kicks it out here. Okay, the following section, land comp sales. I don't generally see very many people use this at all because this is more so if you have raw land data or land value that you need to be reconciled. For example, the appraiser has raw land sales to be reconciled, they can enter it here. Otherwise, the Genie will calculate the site value through allocation, extraction, and regression. So if you did just have raw land value, you would just enter the address, sales price, site size, etc. You would just manually enter it in here. If it doesn't apply, just skip it. You don't have to do anything with it. Same thing with square foot method. These boxes that are green, basically if they're green you can edit them. Most people don't use this last section here either because this is more so if you subscribe to Marshall and Swift. If you do subscribe to Marshall and Swift, you just transfer their information here and just use the black headers and it tells you what goes there. If you'd like to take advantage of buildingcost.net, which is free, just leave this blank. Alright, so we're done with page 1. We're going to scroll to the top. The next thing you would do is you have a button here. It says Start New Report. Now, as stated, I've already done my MLS search. It's already been saved to my computer. So this is the point you guys would need to do that beforehand, and the reason why is once you click on this, it opens up your File Explorer because Genie's looking for that MLS search. Since I already have it saved, I know where it is. It's right here. I'm just going to double click on it or hit Open, whichever you prefer. And what Genie's going to do is going to take that search and it's going to narrow it down based on this site size and this age parameter I put here to the left. We're also going to kick out anything that's not UAD compliant, anything that's weird the realtor may have entered. We try to make this as compliant as possible. You will see this pop up automatically next. This is your subject information as it indicates here. We basically take the subject column that you have entered right here, and we transfer this into Appraiser Genie. And the reason why we do this is this information goes to buildingcosts.net. One thing I want to note, this quality rating that you assign your subject is super important. Buildingcosts.net, they return the total replacement cost to us, and if you assign the wrong quality rating, your extraction is going to be off because they use that for the quality rating. So make sure your quality rating is accurate. We're going to go with Q4. Anything with an asterisk has to have something in it. If something was not in here that should be, for example, let's say you forgot to put pool on the form, well, you can enter it here and we'll update that for you. Okay, so if everything's great, all you do is click next at the bottom. It's going to grade and sort your comparables. What this means is we're going to apply the parameters. This box here you will never see. This is just for me internally. And what we did is we applied the site parameter, which I think I had 30%, and then age I believe I had 15. So I started with, I will tell you, the file that I imported in Appraiser Genie, that had about, I think, around 130 comps in it. We can actually look. Okay, so it had 118. So this 118 is my neighborhood search. Those parameters that I applied, it narrowed it down to 43. So you can see how the narrowing parameters definitely help you get rid of a lot of the comparables that should not be in the narrowed search. So these 43 comparables are going to go into my 1004 MC within the last year. So I'll have 43 solds, unless I kicked out all the actives. If I did kick out the actives on accident, all I need to do is click on input, go back to that page and widen up the parameters, because generally, of course, your 1004 MC, you'll want some actives in there. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you guys is this page here, this 43. This is what we mean when we say we give you a true comp search. So as stated, the 43 comparables here will go into your 1004 MC. You can scroll down. We actually put this in order for you. So starting at the top going down, we start with closest proximity to your subject, then most recently sold, then least adjusted. So we actually put this in order to help you guys kind of weed through the comparable properties, but you can also use the headers as indicated. You have city here, GLA here. There's a ton of information that you can look at when you're trying to figure out which comps you want to use for the report. Earlier I told you guys you can reorder the columns and I would come back to it. This is what I was referring to. This page here, I've put these columns in the order I want the information displayed. I showed you guys GLA earlier, subdivision, and site. So if you notice, they're closer to the front of the page and I don't have to scroll a million miles over to find them here. That's why you want to reorder the columns, so you can see this how you want it. Okay, so you can actually reorder this information. For example, GLA here, if you click on the column header, it's going to reorder it lowest to highest or highest to lowest, so we can click on that. Alright, so it looks like it's going lowest. And then if we click on it again, it's going to go highest. So you can take advantage of even alphabetically too. Yes, if the MLS has a photo available, it's going to show the picture here. This particular MLS does not let us export the photo URL, and if that's the case with yours, it'll just say unavailable. If they don't actually provide the URL to the photo, we have had success. If you contact your MLS, a lot of them have added it, and if they do add it, just let us know. That way the photo will show up here. Because of course, keep in mind, anything here that's blank, that's just simply saying your MLS did not give us that info. So here's your concessions. We do use the dollar value. We just take our percentage of that. So to answer your question, Diana, from earlier, they give us a dollar value too. We just turn it into a percentage as far as adjustment. So that's not a problem. Most MLSs give you a dollar value, not a percentage. All right, so what we'll do now is, just for the demo, I'm just going to grab a few properties here. One thing I wanted to show you real quick think we have distance in here. Now if I move this to the front, I wouldn't have to scroll all the way over. Okay, so this distance, that's in miles. So we're giving you the distance from your subject in miles. That's what the 1.8 is. So we're just going to click on a few, for example. So the ones you click on are the comps that we're going to put in the report. You have a counter here, so it's going to tell you you've grabbed 3 solds, and it's going to count them here. You can go up to 15 in total. Just make sure you grab at least 3. Before I move ahead, this little subject box, if you click on this, all it does is it populates the subject information in the box that you saw earlier, and it's just a reference. Instead of having to come back down here and look at the subject information, you can just click on this box here. Reset sort order. Earlier I did click on GLA, so when I clicked on GLA to reorder it highest to lowest or lowest to highest, it actually took away the natural ordering that we had, meaning closest to proximity, most recently sold, least adjusted. It did away with that ordering. So what you can do if that happens to you is just click on reset sort order, and it's going to put it back in the order that we naturally had it in. So there you go. It moves that back to where it was. And of course I chose some bottom ones, but I'm going to actually deselect these. I think I still have one somewhere down here. Yes. And I'm going to go with ones that are closer. So I'm just going to grab a couple here. Okay, so once you select the ones you do want, we're going to click Next. Now, delete selected comps. I don't really go over that button. If you see any addresses in here that shouldn't be in the narrowed search, you just click on the ones you don't want, hit delete selected comps, and it just kicks them out of this page. Okay, so this pop-up here, this is referring to earlier when I advised you guys you can set defaults as far as to what source we automatically pull for site, age, GLA. Garage, I purposely left on Ask Me. So if you leave a field on Ask Me, what it's going to do is it's going to take the address, the field, and it's going to tell you what MLS reported, what public records reported, and what's the average entry for our peer database. So this is something you may want to leave it on Ask Me if you don't feel confident that your MLS will be right. Maybe you don't feel confident your public records are right. You can just leave them all on Ask Me, and then it's just going to pop up for any discrepancies for all the fields. These top buttons, for example, let's say for this address for garage you feel MLS was right. If you click on the top button, if there's more than one discrepancy, it would just take you to the next address if they had a discrepancy. If not, you're done. There's only one discrepancy for all of the information for this subject and these comparables. But you may have more than one discrepancy, and you'll see what I mean if that's the case. It'll just pop up again. Okay, so this page should look very similar to your report. You'll see on the left-hand side you have your subject address here. When you scroll down, all this information that's entered, that's just coming from page 2 of your report. So we'll go back and look at that. So this information should be exactly what's entered in Appraiser Genie. We just transfer all of this into Genie. You can actually change this information. If you get inside Genie and you're like, you know what, I entered the wrong driveway, whatever the case is, you could just type in the correct value and hit enter, and then we'll correct that in your report as well. 00 just means no fireplace. It duplicates to 0 for whatever reason. It just means 0. If it says 11, that just means one fireplace, like this one. That just means 1. Okay, so we're going to scroll over. You're going to have your first address here, 2338 Shillings, and once again, this should look just like the report. You'll have your first address here, second comp here, third comp here. The only difference is when you go back towards the middle, this is where the adjustments are. We just put them in the middle of the page so you can see where they were very clearly. And I will explain that in a moment. We're going to scroll over, because what you'll see here is these little pink columns. That just means we went with public records for this information. So earlier, as a default for site, I told Genie just to use public records. So that's why we use public records right here. Same thing with stories. We went with public records. But if we can't actually find it in public records, it'll still show you we tried to use public records. But if it's blank, you can actually just enter the count here. So if you look over stories, it follows the page directly over. So here's your subject stories. There's the address. You go directly over and look up. That's the stories for 2338 shillings. Now if I already know that all of these comparables have a 1 story, what I can do is enter 1 and then F2. And it's supposed to put 1 there like it did here. Now that may have acted kind of weird because we're in GoToMeeting, but generally you can just type 1 and hit F2 and it will just transfer it across. That's just a spreadsheet functionality built within the browser. Now what you will do, of course, make sure you look through all this information for the comps. We, of course, pull as much as we can from public records, MLS, or peer database, but if anything's blank, definitely fill that in here and we'll put that in the report. For the most part, everything should be filled in. The condition, we don't have a way to verify the condition, so that's generally blank here. The quality rating, we actually just take whatever quality you assign the subject and we just map it to the comparables because in theory they should be the same quality. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you guys how to actually select the adjustments. One thing to note is we don't actually put the adjustments in the grid automatically. You just go down this list and pick the ones you want to use. The reason why we don't automatically put them in the grid is because you, in your area, you guys may not adjust for age, or GLA may not be something you adjust for. Whatever the case is, we'll give you the support for everything, but you need to manually click on the ones you want. So for example, this right here indicates a time per month adjustment. This is the land value, age, bath, etc. So all the adjustment types we give you are clearly labeled here. Now in order to select them, all you do is go back to an adjustment. Let's say you want a time per month adjustment. You'll notice right here, matched pairs is blank. You have allocation, that's blank. But extraction has a value here. Now time per month, the only adjustment type that has an adjustment will be extraction. You'll never see an allocation adjustment or regression for time per month. So let's say you do want this value and it looks accurate. All you do is click on the box. It's going to turn blue. You'll have a little load screen. And then directly across, here's your settlement date for this comp. Right across from that, you'll have the adjustment. So that's the first comp's adjustment. If it applies, there would be a second one there. If it applies, same thing with the third one. There's the third comp's adjustment. Let's say we go down here. This is site, and this is going to report the land value. So this 82.7, it's based on the settlement date, Diana. Okay, so if you see this value here, this 82,700, this is going to indicate the land value based on the allocation method. This indicates the land value based on extraction. And then this indicates the regression here. So what you would do, the really cool thing is if you see these values and you just want more information at this point, you will notice at the top now all of these boxes up here are tabs. You can click on them. When you first start Appraiser Genie, you can't access these because you haven't imported any information. But once you get to this page, if you're looking through here, and let's say you want more information about land, which is site, you could click on land. So we're going to click on that there. And what we're going to do now is we're going to scroll down to the middle of the page, this land extraction method. You're going to have all this information automatically transferred to your work file, but if you want to quickly review it, for example, land allocation method. This one's a little bit different, and the reason being is what we do is we take the assessor total value, the assessor improvement value, and the assessor land value. We apply that to the subject, and then of course we retrieve that information to your comps. So these boxes you see here that you can click on, once again, just go back to this header. This is the improvement value and the land value. So that's pulled from your tax assessor automatically. If you ever come to this page and it's blank, then for whatever reason it's either new construction or we couldn't retrieve that information. If that's the case, all you have to do is manually type it in here, and then you will actually have an allocation land adjustment that will support for you. That could be the case in your area. It honestly depends. Generally, most people don't have to come back and manually do anything here, but you may if your area is not the greatest in reporting it accurately. So we'll scroll back to the top. I'm just going to click on a few more pages so you can see what they look like for now. Okay, so this allocation percentage of total value, we actually take this here, which is your average dollar per square foot, which is market driven, and we take the total replacement cost, which is going to be 100%. Buildingcosts.net, we send them your subject information and they return to us the total replacement costs. They actually return to us the percentages as well. So for example, for GLA, we're going to take 62% into this number here, and that's going to give us this dollar per square foot. So when we go back to the adjustment page for allocation, this number is going to show there, and we're going to give you an $86 per square foot GLA adjustment, which I'll show you later, of course. We give you the full breakdown for any interior amenities, full bath, half bath, heating and cooling, and exteriors, pool, porch. One thing that's good to note here is this information is awesome. The reason being is if you use Genie and then later on you come back to your report and you want to actually manually just put in a wood deck adjustment, if you scroll all the way over, this is what we're telling you to use. So we're saying for a wood deck you should adjust for 3,000 or you should apply 3,000. Same thing for any of this information here. Okay, so we're going to go back to the adjustment page, and the way you do that is you simply click on side by side. Side by side takes you back to your adjustment grid. Alright, so I'm just going to go down here and choose a few more. For example, let's say I like this allocation land value. I'm just going to click on it. It's going to load. Now directly across it's going to place an adjustment, but you'll see there's a 0 here. For one, 6970 is not very far off from 7841. I put 30% for site size as a default. So this is where your defaults come in. If you put a site size variance in that default and it's within that 30%, there will not be an adjustment here. We just skip over whatever percentage you put there. So that's a good example regarding how you can have the defaults kind of apply to what you normally would do. Same thing with age. This is a 1100 age right here. And look up, this 1100 is for extraction, or you can go with 135, which is regression, and this is per year. So what we'll do is we'll click on this. It's going to load. Of course, it turns blue, and then it's going to apply an adjustment straight across the page. We're working on, I was actually asked this the other day, but if you go back and click on it again, it doesn't kick out the adjustment. It'll leave it in there. But from what I know, eventually when you deselect it, if you change your mind, it should erase the adjustment. Alright, so for GLA, we can just click on one of these. I like the $54 per square foot, so we're just going to click on that. And we're going to go over. Now the pink, that may or may just come off and on, and like I said, it's probably a browser thing. It doesn't mean anything, it just goes away sometimes. Okay, this one did not adjust, $14.99, $14.48. Alright, so the rest of these, I'm going to explain one thing. Earlier, when I told you guys I suggest putting fireplace in blank row 1 and pool in blank row 3, this is why right here. You'll see fireplace, here's your subject's fireplace, and if you look straight across in the middle, fireplace, that's stationary. We will always put a fireplace adjustment here, and we will always put the fireplace count for the comps here. Same thing with pool. Pool will always go here, And if any of the comparables have a pool, they will always be entered here. Of course, none of these have a pool, nor does my subject, so I'm not going to do anything with that. Okay, so the last thing to show you guys regarding this page, once again, just so it conveys, it should look just like your report. The only difference is the middle section is where you choose your comps. I kind of want to make sure you guys grasp that part because people tend to get confused on this page, but it honestly shouldn't look that much different. Now this realtor button in red and tax button in blue, under each address, if you click on this button, if the MLS gives us the realtor list, cell, agent information, it will just pop up. If you try to click on it and they don't give that information to us, for example, when I clicked on that, see how it listed the agent's information and the selling agent and the remarks down here? It's just a reference merely. And same thing with tax. You just click on tax and that'll populate here. Okay, so one thing to note, in between each comp you have Genie Peer Database. Had I ran these comps through Appraiser Genie previously or had another appraiser, we will actually just input the information in between each comp. So for example, for site, if this comparable 2350 had already been ran through Appraiser Genie, it would have automatically pulled up the site value right here. So if the average was 6098, then it's going to say 6098 right here. Same thing for the rest of the information. Alright, so we're actually done. I don't really care about the rest of these adjustments. Fireplace, they both have the same. Pool's not going to apply. Don't care about fireplace in my area anyway. So what I'm going to do now is once I've selected all the comps and I'm good to go, I'm going to click on Export to Report. Okay, so we're not going to do anything right here. We need to actually let Appraiser Genie export the information, so don't click anything. We need to wait for Total's data wizard to populate. And as you see, it does that automatically. So try not to get click happy. I've made the mistake a few times. That can mess up the export. So just hold tight, wait for this. We're going to merge into a currently open report. If you were to click create, then what we're going to do is we're going to take all the information we created for you, everything we did, it's going to make an entirely new report. So generally you'll want to merge. Of course, we're going to want to replace the data, otherwise what's really the point of using Appraiser Genie? If you have a sketch, you will check that. If not, don't worry about it, and then hit import. Alright, so once again we're going to sit here. Now what you will see at the bottom of my screen here is total is now highlighted orange. If you see that, then you're good to go. So what you're going to do in Genie where it says did your report export correctly, just go ahead and click on yes. Alright, so Genie's telling us we can go ahead and close this window. So at this point you are done. We have completed everything that we do. We've bulletproofed your work file. Everything's in there, which I'll show you. And all you do is close the window. Alright, so we went back to total. Anything that remains red means we're able to pull that it was detached, that it had 2 stories, but we don't know what the design is because well actually it would only be because your MLS doesn't provide it, because public records I don't believe actually lists the design anyway. So if it's not in your MLS export, it won't show up here. Okay, so you have all this information transferred over and entered. Your garage count's in there. Porch and patio, earlier when I set it as a default, I just spelled it out that way, so that's why you see it here. Upgrades, if we can find upgrades, for example, we basically scrub the remark field. If they indicate any kind of upgrade, like granite countertops, anything that would indicate an upgrade, we'll pull it and put it in your report if you choose upgrade as a default. Okay, so earlier, to answer, I believe, Diana's question, GLVAR is, of course, my MLS acronym. We did put the MLS number in here. It actually goes in the data source line. So that's what I was getting confused on. It goes in data source, and then anything you choose as a default for your verification source, that goes down here. So we have the county assessor and the doc number here, And then up top, you'll have days on market and the MLS number. Okay, so we'll go down to market conditions addendum. Now, all of this should be entered for you, all this verbiage here as well, all the check boxes are entered. Let me go back to cost approach real quick. We will put buildingcost.net there. Average, whatever quality rating buildingcost.net uses for your subject, that's what's going to go there. We do not fill out the opinion of site value, and we do not fill out as is. Those will always be subjective, so you'll want to, of course, enter this in here. Other than that, we fill out the rest. I'm going to go ahead and answer a question through chat. Maybe this will help everyone in the process. Let me go ahead and scroll down. If a listing was active in the 4 to 6 month and is now a sold in the 0 to 3 months, is the listing counted in both time periods? If, for example, if you exported that active from your MLS and it was listed twice, one as a sold, one as an active, we're going to count the most recent, whatever the status it is. So if the sold's more recent than the active status, it's going to go in the 1004MC as a sold. Does that answer your question? Which we have that happen frequently. So I just want to make sure that answered the question real quick. Okay, so I don't have a response yet, but as indicated, if the active is listed as an active and a sold in the MLS export, we go with the most recent status, and that's how it's going to apply to the 1004MC. Another question that Diana asked, she wants the doc number and the days on market. Let me go back. And the data source. And then on okay, so this is default. This MLS number, this days on market, that is always going into the data source. There's nothing you can change about that. The only thing you can change is what you see in the verification source below. According to Andy, who wrote the program and who is an appraiser, according to him, that is what is supposed to go there. So I don't think that's going to change unless that changes as a requirement. Okay, now you'll see we did actually fill out the 1-unit housing. We do that for you. We'll fill out the 1-unit housing trends here. So you can leave those empty. We'll do that. We exported back the legal description, the parcel number, and then of course we usually find the owner of public record as well. What we're going to do now with total specifically, you're going to click on work file. Now this part's going to be a little bit different depending on whatever software you use. If you use ACI or Appraise It, we actually just make a folder for you for every report you run. You won't have a work file. But like I said, when we get to that point, we'll show you how to do it that way. So I'm going to click on these. As you see, all these PDFs, they were automatically exported and automatically placed here. I did have some graphs set up, so we can just hover over it or click on it. Any graphs that you choose as a default will show up here in the work file. You can click on 1004MC. All the 1004MC information that was filled out is here. The listing, sales, the neighborhood, high-low predominant, the age, high-low predominant, that's all here as well. And of course, we just give you a count of how many actives and solds there were. Now what you'll want to do when you first start using Appraiser Genie is you'll want to get familiar with these PDFs because there's so much information in here. You can click on allocation. And earlier when I showed you guys the chart as far as allocation percentage of total, the interior and exterior amenities, all of the tabs at the top of Appraiser Genie, all we do is we convert them to a PDF. So now you have all of your allocation support. You have depreciation support. We give you the remaining economic life, effective ages here. Extraction, everything we do related to extraction, any adjustments, that's all on this page. Regression's a fun one, not the best. I'm not going to even try to explain regression, but what I can tell you is every comp that was used in calculating regression will list here. So that's what we mean by data set. We're telling you all of these comparable properties, they all went into the regression adjustment. Have fun trying to understand that. Yeah, I don't recommend it because I don't understand it. So reconcile, you can click on reconcile. We have, of course, the weighted by quantity of adjustments, weighted by net dollars, weighted by gross dollar, and then you have the weighted analysis. Now earlier I put a 10 under sales comparison on page 1 under reconciled. So as you see, we put the full weighting on sales comparison, and that's the value. So 251,000 was the calculated value for sales comparison. But we still give you cost approach, of course. Okay. Now, if there's not a lot of information, or if you choose a quarterly graph and there's not enough change quarterly, you may just get a flat line. So these graphs may or may not work depending on the report you're using or depending on the information you import. If that's the case, you can honestly right-click on this and just delete it and click yes. Some of these graphs are really beneficial. Some of them give you a lot of information, like you guys saw with this one up here. I'm going to show you something. If you do look through these PDFs and you actually want to put one of them in your report, let's say we like the allocation page. If you click on it, go to Insert as Page. Let's just rename this allocation. Click OK. And we'll go back to Forms. Okay, so at the very bottom here in your report contents, you'll have the allocation page. Now, the resolution, so to speak, can look kind of weird. You can mess around with this. That's just something you've got to learn to do in total. There's plenty of features up here if you want to crop these or whatever you want to do. All right, so that pretty much wraps up the demo. We did go over 5 o'clock, but like I said, I wanted to allow everyone enough time to join the room. I'm going to go ahead and unmute everyone. Just give me 1 second. And if you guys have any questions, I will try to answer as many as I can before we go far over much more, just because I know some people actually have schedules and whatnot. But I'd be glad to answer anything you guys have. You guys are unmuted. You can either type it in the chat box or somebody can just speak to me if they'd like. No questions from anyone? Did I explain it that well? I mean, I hope I did.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
All my clients want the time adjustment based on the contract date, not the sales date.
Okay. What I would do is email Andy@appraisergenie.com, because we've actually gone back and forth with that. We've had some appraisers want the contract date, and then we have appraisers who want settlement date. I don't honestly know why he chose settlement date. I don't know if that's actually supposed to be the guideline, but I would email Andy for clarification because that's what he set up.
What's his email? Andy@appraisergenie.com?
Yes, ma'am. Andy@appraisergenie.com.
Okay, I'd have to look up my documents, but somewhere along the line I read some data or documents, whatever you want to call it, that said that the doc number is the data source and the verification source is your GL MLS number. So you've got it set up the other way. So am I stuck with that?
No, definitely bring that to Andy's attention. The only reason why I refer you to Andy is I don't program the software at all, so I couldn't even fix it if I wanted. But Andy is the horse's mouth. Anything that's supposed to be a certain way, you definitely would want to contact Andy for, so he can fix it if that's necessary.
Is there a number we can call you guys at?
Yeah, of course. If you want sales, or let's say you want a demo, if you have any questions, you can call 325-704-2592. You can also email info@appraisergenie.com. I'll give you the tech support number. If you have tech problems, tech problem specifically. Or if you need your MLS set up, you can call 325-701-9012 or email support@appraisergenie.com.
To get the MLS set up?
MLS is MLS@appraisergenie.com.
Okay, I already did that.
Yes, ma'am. Anyone else in here? Rick, do you have any questions? I know you have a mic. If you have any questions, go ahead. Jeffrey, Charles?
No.
All right. Well, awesome.
I came in a little bit late. Can you tell me what the first step is that you open Genie from the store? You open the report, and then how do you open the Genie?
Okay, I'll show you guys. Okay, so the way you initially start it is you're going to want to have a report ready, but if you haven't installed Appraiser Genie, you click on Dashboard in the right-hand corner.
Okay.
And if it's not installed, you click on Launch under the Total Store. It's going to launch their store, of course, and you just go down here to the middle and click on Appraiser Genie. And if you haven't used Genie, definitely click on Free Trial 10 Uses because we want to allow you to set up the uses first before you start paying.
Okay. Yeah, it's already installed in my machine. I've been paying for a couple months. I haven't used it.
Okay.
Okay, I just did that, Angela, and I did the clicked on Dashboard and I clicked on Install the Appraisal Genie, and I'm not seeing it anywhere.
Okay, so did you close your dashboard? When you actually install it or when you sign up, you need to come back to dashboard and close it real quick and relaunch it. And then you should see Appraiser Genie somewhere at the bottom down here.
The bottom of
So
what?
you open.
Your dashboard.
What's that? My appraisal dashboard?
Yes, yes ma'am. I'll show you how to do it one more time. Okay, so let's say we haven't installed it, or we did. We went to the Total Store and signed up for it. You need to go to your dashboard. If your dashboard was already open, you need to close it and then relaunch it. It's right here on the right-hand side. Click on Dashboard.
Yeah, I already did that.
Okay, you need to close it and relaunch it. It should say Appraiser Genie now. If it doesn't, then somehow they didn't actually get your request to order the software. That's a total thing.
You should say it where?
It should be in this list. When you click on Dashboard, it should just say Appraiser Genie. Should be a little icon.
I went to the store and I clicked on free trial.
Mm-hmm. And you signed in with your a la mode info?
Product and are not yet eligible for another trial. So, I mean, it's in there somewhere apparently.
Okay, right. So did you close the dashboard though?
Yeah.
Okay, and you relaunched it and it's still not showing up there?
I closed one total altogether.
Okay, I can help you. I'll get off of this webinar once I'm through, and I can give you a call and help you if you'd like me to real quick.
Okay.
Let's see.
How am I supposed to be seeing it on my one total?
It's supposed to be in your dashboard. You click on the dashboard button. Every product you've purchased from Total is within this dashboard. So you just click on dashboard, and then it should have an icon that says Appraiser Genie.
Okay, there, I think. I guess I have to download it?
Yeah, if it says download, click download. Yes, ma'am. And then it should be a really small file that's going to install. Now, was it Jeffrey? You had a question as well, right?
Yeah, so you open the report and then you go to the store and then you launch Appraiser Genie?
Right, so mine says launch here, but when you go to the store and you sign up for it, when you come back to your dashboard, it's probably going to say download. You click on download, you run the installation real quick, and come back to this dashboard, and it should say launch, and you just launch it from there.
Okay. All right, and then I fill out parts, the part of the improvements of the report and the address,
Right.
address in GLA. Is it GLA also?
Yes, sir. You'll want the page 1. You need the address filled out. You need the improvement section filled out. And then on page 2, you need to have the subject column filled out on the left. Try to fill out as much of that as you can.
Okay.
And that's the bare minimum. You don't have to have anything else filled out. You can complete a sketch if you have a garage.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
If you have a garage, go ahead and complete a sketch because we pull the garage square footage from your sketch. If you don't want to do that, later on in Appraiser Genie, you could just manually enter the garage square foot if you need to, if it applies.
Okay. Um, is it possible because I had a family emergency, so I took my what do you call it, the course or the demo like a couple of months ago. Is it are you guys doing one-on-one again, or is it are you just doing it webinars?
Oh, no, sir. You can take advantage of a one-on-one demonstration. You just need to call our sales line or email info@Appraiser Genie. We still offer walkthroughs. People just prefer the webinars because you guys can jump on and ask questions, and we can help out a lot more people at once. So it's up to you.
Right. Okay, but you're still doing one-on-ones. And are you doing the webinars Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, or how often?
Yes, sir. We do the webinars Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, same time, 4 to 5 Central. Now, if Friday comes around and then nobody signs up for the webinar, then of course we may not hold one that day. But lately we've had pretty high demand, so I will administer another webinar Friday unless nobody registers.
Just out of curiosity, do you know like the number of appraisers that are using the Genie? Like how popular is it getting?
I don't have an actual number count, but I can tell you we're the #1 product for the total store in general. If you were to call up Total and ask them, they would recommend us because we're the #1 rated. But I don't actually have a user count because I just don't have that information. I can tell you we have set up over 300 MLSs across the nation. So we're located everywhere. We have appraisers everywhere from Hawaii to Alaska. So that should help you.
When I was in Vegas, I was talking to Andy. He is the software lead guy at ACI because I was asking him, about you guys interfacing with ACI, and of course it's going to take a while, like always. But he did mention that he heard that a lot of appraisal companies are asking their staff appraisers to start using your software. So that was a good indicator. To want to pass that on to you.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you. That's actually very true. We've had quite a few larger appraisal management companies. I won't disclose any information, but we're very familiar with what you just said. That's very true. We have a lot of companies who roll this out to their remote appraisers. So if you work for someone remotely, they tend to pay for it or they foot the bill, so to speak. So that's good news. We want as many appraisers as we can. It works quite well no matter if you're in a rural area. We're in Abilene, Texas, and sometimes we have to pull comparables from Ty or Trent, and there's literally a stop sign in those towns. So, it doesn't matter if you're in a cookie cutter neighborhood or you're somewhere smaller like we are, it should work pretty well. But of course, it's all dependent on your public records and your MLS.
It's also possible to do like a comp search and pick the comps that I want to use prior to using the Genie, and then just select those from the list.
Yeah, of course. Some appraisers go into using Appraiser Genie with comparable properties they've already determined. So for example, If I were to take this report I have here and let's say I want to actually keep these comps in there because they are the ones I want to use, what you do is you can leave this in here, or if you don't, and let's just say you know which comps you're going to choose, just choose them in the Genie. Oh, I forgot to show you guys one way. So for anyone who is around, I'm so sorry, but you can also go back and view the webinar. There's an icon here. It's going to be on your desktop. When you install Appraiser Genie, you'll have an icon. If you have not inspected the property, that means if you have not gone out there and if you don't know the subject information, all of it, you can double click this icon. And what's going to happen is you get this pop-up box. It's going to ask you to choose which software you use. Well, of course, we're using a la mode, so I'll click on a la mode and hit OK. And a Genie is going to launch just like it did earlier, but you're going to notice, let me click Submit here, the subject address will not be filled in. The reason why is because we didn't import any information. We didn't go through total. So this, what you do, let's say you know the subject address. I'm going to type it in here. And I know the zip code. If I hit Tab, we're going to pull the city and state. And then sometimes the parcel number, I take a moment, but see how it was entered automatically by itself right here? So what we do is we try to pull as much as we can. We instantly pull public records for this subject. So you'll just go down here and fill out page 1 just like you did earlier. The only difference is when you do your MLS search, just make sure that subject's in that search file. That's it. Because if we can't pull everything from public, then we go back and use your MLS and fill in the rest. So we can pretty much fill out this for you without you having to do it. So that's one of two ways. You can use Genie if you haven't inspected the property yet, or you can go ahead and inspect the property and use it through total.
So if I open Genie from the desktop icon, I can just type in the address there, and it will pull up public records, and then all I have to do is put the improvements.
No, you don't even have to do that because you're not starting from total, meaning you're not going to have a report ready. If you go through the desktop icon, you just enter the subject, still do your MLS search based on that subject you're using, just make sure that address is in the file. You go through Appraiser Genie all the way through just like you did this way, and we're going to create the report for you. So we'll fill this out for you. We'll fill what we can pull here, and then we'll fill this subject out for you. So you can do it one of two ways. That's the alternative way.
You will fill out the site and site and age and all that info, but I will have to put the improvement section. I'll have to put the stucco and tile and.
Right. You'll have to come back and enter that because public records is definitely not going to tell you that information. So some of this you'll just have to come back and fill out. But other than that, like I said, instead of you having to do the subject initially, you just use the desktop icon and we'll fill this out for you instead of you having to do it firsthand. And then we'll, of course, put your comps in there. We'll do your 1004MC and we'll do your cost approach, and you'll still get your work file right here. I can't go too much longer in detail on that one, but you can always call us and I can further explain it to you as well.
Yeah, and also do you guys put like comments like market conditions and 1004MC aside from the data, like how can you go to the first page, please?
I would. I honestly don't have enough time to go back through it. What I would probably recommend is watch this webinar. As soon as we get off, I'm going to convert the video and I can get this put on our website, and I explained that all during the beginning.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. And can I call now and make an appointment, or are you guys closed?
No, go ahead and call now. You can call our sales line. You're going to carry over to our support, but they can schedule you for a demo, so that's fine. Yes, sir.
What's the phone number, please?
325-704.
704.
2592.
325-704-2592?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much for your help. You've been great. Wonderful.
No problem. Thank you. Anyone else I can help?
Yeah, real fast, Angela. When you were just talking to that guy, what when he gave you, and you showed the description of the two different ways to basically fill out your report, which way would you go about doing that? Like just going straight through the Genie and then having all that information populate into a report, or build the report first and then go through the Genie?
To be honest, I recommend going through Total, and the reason why is if you don't give us a lot of this information, we immediately rely on public records, which doesn't generally return anywhere near all of this information. So,
Okay.
and then another thing, if you've inspected the property, you know this is accurate. You know what I mean? You control what you're giving us, so I definitely recommend you go through this way, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right, looks like no one else has any questions. I thank you guys for your time. I know it ran over, but I want to take time to let everyone ask any questions. Of course, like I said, you can go to appraisergenie.com, click on the training tab. You'll see this video probably in an hour or so. If you want to join another webinar, you can also sign up at appraisergenie.com. We run them Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I try to build on that. Since you guys asked me questions, I try to proactively give that information the next time. So I just try to make it better. But thank you guys. You have a good evening.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
Thank you.